It's time for this week's episode of Brandon's Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon's Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon's Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Murray State head's rodeo coach, Coach Todd Smith. How are you doing today?
Doing fine.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into college coaching and rodeo?
Well, I'd been teaching for a long time, and I saw a hole in the high school kids that I taught in baseball, football, and basketball. They were getting scholarships, and I competed in rodeo. And a lot of the kids that compete in rodeo, there's not really a place at the school for them. And I had an opportunity to go to a college and help rebuild a program, and I took that and started bringing kids in.
What was it like, obviously, working in the public school system in rodeo for 30 years?
The public school system, the K through 12, that was very political. I enjoyed my time coaching. I enjoyed my time with kids. Not so much with the other side, but it was fun, and I enjoyed it. And I retired very content and very happy when I got out of public education.
What was that like transitioning into being a college basketball official?
I've been an official for many sports for over 40 years, and I started doing college basketball for the last 30. I just enjoy it. I enjoy the games, the kids being out there. Somebody has to do it, and I don't mind being the one doing it. And I've just kind of over the years gradually worked myself into a different position where I did JUCO, NAI, and now I work NCAA.
What is that like, obviously, balancing being an official and being a college rodeo coach?
It gets me all over the place. I'm kind of stretched. I don't referee quite as much since I started doing the rodeo again, because I am the only rodeo coach here at the schools. I balance my practices out to 3 to 4 days a week. And then when I have those moments, usually Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, when we're not competing, then I work some college ball games at those times.
How is it like, obviously, getting into the rodeo after growing up and being in the rodeo system?
Well, being a part of the system, I said I did it since I was 17. My dad, I grew up around rodeo, and I've always been involved in it. And I was involved professionally myself for 20 years before I got hurt. I kind of got out of it for a while, and I came back into it. But it's just like I never stepped away. A lot of the people that I knew years ago are still there. I mean, we're a family. If we go to one of these rodeos and one of my kids has a piece of equipment or something break, we don't have access to get something at that time, they're going to loan it to us. We're all one big family, no matter if we're competing against each other or not.
How did your time being a judge for rodeos help you into where you are now as a college coach for rodeos?
My expertise was in the rough stock events along with team roping, because my dad roped in the USTRCA. And being a judge, they train us to observe and watch all the aspects to make a quality ride and what it takes to be able to get the high scores, the quick runs. And that's helped me to know what I'm looking for when I'm looking for students to come to be in our rodeo program. I can see the skill level, their animals, and what they do, and helps me evaluate the kids a lot better, I think.
What was it like getting your first coaching job
In public school or
in rodeo?
Kind of a lucky break. I'd been retired for almost a year, and a friend of mine at Bacone College, where I first started, they needed somebody to rebuild their program at that time. And I jumped at the opportunity because it was something I believed in, that there were kids out there that would go to school for rodeo. And we went from having 3 kids to 18 kids the first 2 or 3 months. And then the next year after recruiting, we had a team of almost 56 kids in the second year. And I know there's kids out there that just need a chance, that they don't get the same recognition that the football, the basketball, the baseball players get, but they're there and they want an education too.
What was that like going from obviously the Bacon College to Murray State College?
Bacone College was a four-year private college, uh, mainly Native American, and they had a little bit of a money situation there where they could offer scholarships a little bit different than what we do. Murray State's a junior college, and we offer, I think we offer some pretty good scholarships. But that was the big difference, was the scholarship amounts, because the private school had limits set at about 40,000. So it was quite a bit of money per kid.
What does a typical game day look like in rodeo?
The day we're getting up to compete, the kids that are competing that day in their event, they're going to get up, they're going to run their horses, get everything loosened up, whatever needs to be done, check their equipment, their saddles. They'll get limbered up if they need to for roping, riding rough stock, just making sure everything is prepared, the horse is taken care of, and then they're there when they're called upon to compete.
What are some of the game day traditions that you have implemented?
Well, for us, it's more or less just go and compete. We support each other on the road. We are our own cheering section. Our game days, try to get everybody where we can have a breakfast or a lunch that first day there, because once we get started, it's kind of like a 3-day track meet. It's just go, go, go. Everybody's doing different things at different times. But we try to get there the day before and build us a campsite where we're going to be at, and kind of go from there.
Of course, as you said, it was a 3-day, kind of like a 3-day track meet. Can you explain obviously what happens during that time? And is it just one day or is it multiple days?
We're going to rodeos that are multiple days. Usually they'll be 3-day long. There'll be a long go and a short go. And it's, to me, I liken it to a track meet where there's multiple events in a track meet. There are multiple events in a rodeo. Between your rough stocks and your timed events, you'll have the bareback, the saddle bronc, the bulls, and you'll have calves, breakaway, team roping, steer wrestling, goat tying, barrel racing. And each kid competes at a different time in the same arena when they're called upon to go. The long goes are normally called slack. And then there'll be 2 other purse performances that are there for the show, for the crowd to come in and watch. And then the best 10 competitors in each event will compete in a short go on the last day.
Of course, what is that like, obviously having an event being a long day event versus obviously you're going and then you're coming back?
The barrel racing, I'll use that as an example. That's a long day. Barrel racing is the most entered event. We usually have about 123 to 127 girls competing. It usually takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to get the slack over with to determine who's going to be in the finals. And you're sitting there keeping time, you're watching your kids, videoing, giving them as much support. We watch the other kids for the other team, something about the dirt being loose or just something in particular. We try to relay that back and forth. It just makes a very long day when you're there during slack. And anybody that rodeos knows exactly what I'm talking about on that. So,
Of course, with rodeo, how is it like obviously having a co-ed where you also have the girls team and you have the men's team?
like I said, I'm the only coach here at this time. We've got, currently right now, we have 5 girls, 5 boys. And we just kind of work our time back and forth. The boys help me with the girls help with the boys, running cattle, doing stock. The boys help with the barrel patterns, dragging the pin, whatever we need to do. It's all a team. We're all family, and we do everything we can to help each other.
Who are some of the teams that you compete against in your conference?
We compete in Central Plains region. It's Oklahoma and Kansas, Fort Scott, Kansas, K-State University at Manhattan, Panhandle in Guyman, Oklahoma, Southeastern in Durant, OSU, Stillwater. We've got 17, 18 schools, universities, and colleges in our region. Rodeo is one of those few sports where you don't break off too much into individual stuff. You're competing against everybody when you get there, whether it's a 4-year major college, NCAA, or whether it's a junior college 2-year.
What is that like, obviously, as you said, that you can compete against four-year colleges and two-year colleges at the same time.
The four-year colleges, they'll have those kids that where I'm getting a few kids that are straight out of high school. They'll be 18, 19 years old, and they'll have kids that we're going to compete against now that can be anywhere from 21 to 23. They're a little older, a little more mature. Skill level, though, will come through in the end. Some of the kids that are coming out of schools, high school, are just as good as some of those. But that first year into college as a freshman, it's kind of a break-in area. I had one young lady went with us to a rodeo, the very first one, and there was over 600 competitors at that rodeo. It's the biggest rodeo she'd ever competed in. So it's kind of overwhelming sometimes for the freshmen, and the four-year colleges and universities, they've actually kind of got those kids kind of settled into it's an old hat to them. So.
Can you talk about, of course, the recruitment process and what you look at in prospective student athletes?
When the kids are coming in, I'm all about getting an education. And I look for the kids that want that education as well as want to rodeo. So when they come to us, I'm looking at their animals, what type of animal they have, if they can compete in the region, also how they handle the animal and what they can do to help our team. If we've got one or two girls coming in, they're also extremely good ropers. They'll be here for next year. So they're also going to compete on the men's side of the team rope. It's the only crossover event. So they're going to help us out and make it a lot stronger team.
Of course, as you talked about, you look at the animals when you're on the road and stuff. Do they bring the animals with them when they do come to Murray State, or do you provide the horses and stuff?
The kids that are in the timed events, they bring their own animals. We have about 60 stalls and 2 barns. And we give them a place for the animals to be stalled and a place for them to keep their tack, their saddles, feed and stuff. It gives them a place to have their stuff on site. We have some kids coming from California, Arkansas, Texas, and we've only got 1 or 2 that are living close by at this time that can drive back and forth from the house with their animals there. But we try to keep everything on site.
Of course, how is that like, obviously, having the animals that they know come with them versus getting used to whole new animals?
Almost very few of the kids compete on a borrowed animal. Team ropers have always got their own, barrel racers have got their own. The only ones that jump horses sometimes might be a calf roper and steer wrestlers who will share horses or lease them at the time. It's just like, and these horses are just like somebody's cat or dog at the house. These kids are used to them. It's like family, like a friend, and very comforting for them to have. At the end of the day, you've had a long, stressful day. They go down and they'll be with the animal after practice, clean, feed, and keep everything going. Just like having brought a friend with you.
What do you look at in these prospective rodeo people looking to come to Murray State?
Someone that's dedicated to going to college. Some kids look at this, I'm going to go rodeo. This is not just rodeo. This is get an education. And I preach that to all of our parents and the kids coming in. I want you to get an education. There's only so many people that can make a really good living at rodeo at an upper level. And I was able to provide for my family through my education and still rodeo for over 20 years. And that's all good and stuff, but you got to have that education. There's not a retirement in rodeo. You either win or you don't win. But if you have an education, that may give you a job someday that when it comes time to retire, you can retire, and it'll help you out in the end.
What has it been like, obviously, having a professional rodeo career helped you into where you are as a college coach?
That's helped me into a lot of places that maybe some people don't have. I have access to stock contractors that I worked for back in the day, and I get phone calls all the time about, you need to take a look at this kid. You need to come here. This guy's going to compete tonight. I've got somebody I want you to talk to. My recruiting has been a big help with those connections. Those 20 years of rodeo, I've seen a lot, made a lot of friends. And for instance, I had a guy call me about a young lady in Arkansas that apparently no one had ever seen. And he said, you need to come see this girl at one of my shows. And I went down there and watched her, and I signed her up that night. She was extremely good. No one was recruiting her. No one even knew she existed. But because of the contacts I've got with the friends I've got out there, they're looking. They're helping me find kids that need a chance. And I'm the guy that's willing to give somebody a chance if they're willing to work for me.
What is it like to obviously go out and recruit in the areas like Arkansas and the big areas that rodeo is heavily at?
It's a lot of fun. Currently, right here where we're at, we're in the midst of PRCA rodeo country, IPRA, CRRA, UPRA. We have a lot of good rodeo associations here. We have a lot of cowboys and cowgirls here. And then I slip off into Texas, which we're only about 25 miles from the Texas line. And I can't not find somebody that rodeos or knows somebody that rodeos. Arkansas is the same way. Southern Arkansas has got a lot of smaller associations with some good kids looking for an opportunity. But when I drive through a town, I usually look to see if there's a rodeo grounds. And if there is, then I stop at the local cafe and just visit with some people, or at the gas station, and I'll visit the school. If that's not on my ticket that day, I will go by and visit the school just to ask them and see who's around that might know somebody that would be interested in going to college.
Of course, as you talked about, and I know with Texas is heavy in rodeo. What is that like, obviously, going to Texas and looking at prospective student athletes in the Texas area?
The kids in Texas, there's all sorts of stuff in Texas. You can rodeo almost every day down there. Jackpots or association rodeos. And there's a large high school rodeo commitment down there. Texas, the region in Texas and college rodeo actually hosted the largest college rodeo back in the fall that is anywhere in the country. But the kids in Texas are looking to go to college. They rodeo, they're dead serious. They're just like Oklahoma or anywhere else. They really enjoy it. But there's a lot of kids in Texas because their schools actually let rodeo be part of their school system a lot of the time.
Of course, when on the official visit, what does the official visit look like for those prospective student athletes?
Well, Murray State's a small two-year college. It's a great place to be. We bring them in, they get a chance. By the time they get to us, they've seen the whole town driving in. And we've got a beautiful, clean campus. They'll meet us at the Welcome Center. And depending on how they want to do it, I'll either meet them at the Welcome Center, and I'll take the tour with the parents and the child and let them ask me questions. We have a young person that will go around with us, part of our presidential scholarship program, that they will point things out on the campus. But if not, I'll do the tour myself and just let them ask me questions. I'll point things out, things that they need to know about coming here, and try to make it as friendly as possible. I don't try to hide anything from them. We see everything that's on the campus, from where the basketball gym is to the dorms, all the way down to the end of the road where the rodeo grounds is. And I make sure that they've got every chance to ask a question. And when we're done, we have my phone numbers in their hand. And I said, on the way home, if you come up with another question you want to ask, just give me a shout. And more than once, somebody after they leave will call me right back 10 minutes later. Hey, I forgot to ask this. But I go right around with them. I try to make sure that this is the most pleasant day they can. I want them to see it and see how genuine we are. It's a very fun.
What is a game day tradition, and what is it like on home games?
Well, with rodeo, there are 10 rodeos, and those are set in stone every year. We currently do not have a college rodeo at our site. We host a couple of pro rodeos here at the school, but those are just if the kids want to compete. All of our rodeos are away from the school. The closest one is about 45 miles away. The farthest one is about 9 hours away. So depending on where we're going, depends on kind of how we prepare. The one that's 45 miles away, we just drive back and forth from each day. They're usually 3 days long. So we'll drive back and forth. But when we go away, like Colby, Kansas, it's about 30 miles from the Nebraska line. So that's a 9-hour drive. And a game day for their driving up, we'll drive 3 or 4 hours, stop, get our horses out, walk them, water them, exercise them just a little bit to give them a chance to get loosened up, and then put them back in the trailers, and we'll take off again. And then just arrive and get set up at our little campsite that we're going to be at to make sure the horses are fed and watered and taken care of, and give them a little more exercise to keep them stretched out.
What advice would you give high school athletes that are looking to go into college rodeo?
Make sure that you have a 2.0. I've talked to several kids that are pretty good athletes and have good horses, but they haven't followed through with their education plans. Oklahoma, for instance, has what we call the Oklahoma Promise. Any kid that has signed up on this up until, I believe, their sophomore year is eligible to go to any of our state schools, and they will pay for their classes. And that's a big help for them. And I would advise them all to do that. I would also advise them to put together a package, kind of a portfolio with a video telling us something about them, what honors they've won, where they competed, and make sure that they're ready to go. And make sure they understand this is about education first, rodeo second. If you come to rodeo, that's great. But if you don't make the grade, you're not going to rodeo very long.
What advice would you give future college rodeo players looking to compete on the college level?
For the students?
Mhm.
The students that want to come in, they need to be, when they're rodeo, they need to be serious. We've got, in this region alone, a few years ago when I was coaching at back home, Sage Kimsey, he's won several NFR bull riding titles, PRCA. He was competing in this region. There are some people here that are going PRCA. They're going to be big time competitors in the future. And then there's some here that are not. They're going to compete in lower level associations and aren't going to be able to go on because of work or whatever, geography. But be serious about it. Not only your education, but you do have to be serious about your rodeo. Take care of your animal, practice, be on time, take care of all your responsibilities.
What advice would you give those college rodeo people looking to go onto the professional level?
It's a lot of fun. I did it for 20 years professionally, and I've got a lot of friends, a lot of good memories. It's one of those things that you can't take away the memories and the fun, the stories. Made some money at it, enjoyed it, and I think it's one of the greatest sports there is. It's an American tradition, and I like thinking that we're continuing that and keeping it going.
What advice would you give those future college coaches looking to get started in coaching in college rodeo?
I would tell them to go out, if you want to coach college rodeo, go and look at some of the places that maybe need to start a program. We're building this program here. This is our first year back, and I put together a package showing them how this could bring more students in, and it's currently doing exactly what I said. We started a little late, had 10 kids. Right now, we're in the process of signing 32 kids for next year, and the kids are there. It has to be something that the colleges want, but sometimes you have to kind of go and talk to them about it. And there's jobs out there. I've interviewed for 2 or 3 other jobs over the years in Montana and Texas, and they're wanting to get these kids into school. And there's a big push back into ag and agriculture, and we are a big agriculture school here. But if they'll go out and look, there are places that are looking for college coaches that can bring these kids here to get an education and build a program.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Murray State Rodeo Program app?
They can go to the Murray State College website, and they can find some information about us there. We're getting ready to do a bunch of some YouTube videos of our team competing, and just a little bit more of a promotional package also. That'll be launched a little later this summer, probably in June. But if they'll just get hold of Murray State College, our information's there. They can get hold of me, and I'm open to talking to anybody that wants to come and get an education in rodeo.
That's great of them. That's great. Thank you again, Coach Todd Smith, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Murray State Rodeo program.
Thank you very much. It's been a joy talking with you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Todd Smith, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Murray State Rodeo.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.